lifting up the name of Jesus together in this place. So we invite you to lift your voices with us as we sing this out. Blessing, honor, strength, and power. Blessing, honor, strength, and power. Yours alone, now and forever. Love, this world can never stop. There is no one like our God, reaching down to touch the broken. Mercy breaking through this moment. Faithful is the one who saves, worthy is your name. Oh God, the glory is yours, the kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours, glory is yours. Sing this out together. Thrones and angels watch and wonder. Thrones and angels watch and wonder. On that day when time is over, and every heart at last proclaim, worthy is your name. Oh God, the glory is yours, the kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours, glory is yours. Oh God, the glory is yours, the kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours, glory is yours. When we sing this out, nobody beside you, there has never been anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you, there has never been anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you, there has never been anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you, there has never been anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you, there will never be anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you, there will never be anyone, anything like you. Oh God, the glory is yours, the kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours, glory is yours. Oh God, the glory is yours, the kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours, glory is yours. Oh God, the glory is yours, the kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours, glory is yours. Nobody beside you, there will never be anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you, there will never be anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you, there will never be anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you, there will never be anyone, anything like you. And from the darkness I called your name, and into darkness your mercy came. You called me out, lifted me up. How great is your love? You bore my weakness, you took my shame, buried my burdens in fields of grace. You called me out, lifted me up. How great is your love? From the heights of heaven, you stepped down to earth. Innocent perfection perfection, gave your life for us, and we are amazed. Yes, we stand in awe, for we have been changed by the power of the cross. How great, how great, how great is your love. How great, how great, how great is your love. How great, how great, how great is your love for us. In your kindness, you lead me home. In your presence, where I belong. Oh, you call me out, lifted me up. How great is your love? From the heights of heaven, you stepped down to earth. Innocent perfection, gave your life for us, and we are amazed. Yes, we stand in awe, for we have been changed by the power of the cross. How great, how great, how great is your love. How great, how great, how great is your love. How great, how great, how great is your love for There's never been, there will never be a God like you, who loves so true. There's never been, there will never be a God like you, who loves so true. There's never been, come on. There will never be a God like you, who loves so true. There's never been, come on, tell it. There will never be a God like you, who loves so true. How great is your love? How great, how great is your love for us? There is a hill I cherish, where stood a precious tree, the emblem of salvation, the gift of Calvary. How is it I crucified, yet as his life was taken, so I was granted my wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want than just to know his love. My heart is set on Christ, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns means nothing to me now, for I've counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. I will not boast in riches, I have no pride in gold, but I will boast in Jesus and in his name alone. My wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want than just to know his love. My heart is set on Christ, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns mean nothing to me now, for I've counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. Yes, all my wealth is in the cross. And when I stand in glory, my crown's before the Lord. Let this be my confession. My wealth is in the cross. Hallelujah! My wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want than just to know his love. My heart is set on Christ, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns mean nothing to me now, for I've counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. There's nothing more I want than just to know his love. My heart is set on Christ, and I will count all else as lost. The greatest of my crowns means nothing to me now, for I've counted up the cost, and all my wealth is in the cross. And all my wealth is in the cross. All my wealth is in the cross. Yes, all my wealth is in the cross. Amen, church. Will you pray with me to your Heavenly Father? Lord God, we thank you. What a good God you are. What a God that sent your one and only Son to die on a cross in our place. Lord, to pay a price that we can never pay. Jesus, to give us a wealth and inheritance that we can never deserve. Father, may we learn to know what that looks like. May we learn to be defined by who you are, to find our identity in you and everything that you say about us. Father, we thank you for this time together. May you be glorified and magnified in this place, we pray. Amen. You guys may take your seats.
Last year, I went to high school camp for the first time, and let me tell you, it was such an extraordinary experience because in the past, I just went to church on Sundays, and when I went to camp, they went so beyond surface level, and I was able to learn more than I could have ever imagined, and I finally gave my life to God, and I got baptized last year in the ocean, which was so cool and such a neat experience that not very many people get to say. Camp helped me realize that I'm not living my life just to get by. I'm living it for God, and I have a purpose. I have a reason to be here, and just going to summer camp helped me realize that.
Well, how cool is that, Rock Point? That is awesome. My name is Steve Brines. You can call me Steve-O. I am the preteen pastor. I get to hang out with the 4th and 5th graders. And actually, just a minute ago, not long ago, my wife FaceTimed me because my daughter, who's about 1 year old, was taking her first steps. So I'm going to take the next 20 to 30 minutes to just really brag on my daughter, if you don't mind. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Slightly. As you can tell, we're crazy about camp around here. And that's because camp is where our kids and students take steps, right? First steps, next steps. And so we are passionate about getting this experience for all of the next generation. And it's these kinds of, like you heard from Sydney, the realization that becomes transformation up here and in here, right? And you can't do that unless you get away sometimes. You disconnect, you unplug, you get away from the hustle and bustle of life, and you get to a place where you can encounter God in an incredible way. Did you know that there's more than double the hours of impact in 1 week of camp than an entire year of coming to weekend services? And that number is staggering. It is mind-blowing. And that's why at Rock Point, we want to do whatever we can. And that's why as a church, we're rising to this challenge of covering the cost of the seats on the bus. On average, that's about $90. And $90 for one seat might seem like a lot, but it's not just a seat to a camp location, is it? It's putting the next generation on that path where they're going to encounter the transformation power of Jesus. And it's not just going to affect them, it's going to affect those around them, right? I'll never forget the 5th grade girl who had her seat covered on the bus, which allowed her to have a seat in the chapel. And at the end of the week of camp, she found herself in tears, just moved emotionally. Her leader came up and asked her if everything was all right, if she wanted to talk about anything. And she said, well, I love Jesus, and I want to follow him, but I don't know if my mom is going to be okay with it. You see, my mom practices another religion, and I'm not sure how she's going to take it, but I'm going to go with it. 1 month later, she came home, and after weeks of seeing a difference in her daughter that she couldn't explain other than maybe this camp thing, maybe this Jesus thing, her mom gave her life to Jesus. And they were both baptized 1 month after that and are part of the family of Jesus. And you know, these are the steps that are made possible when we make that seat on the bus possible. So if you want to be a part of that, if you're able to do that, now you can go over to rockpoint.io and get the details on that. I'd love for you to also see what else is going on here at Rock Point, so check this out.
Hey everyone, my name is Daniel and welcome to Rock Point. If this is your first time here with us, we would love to know. Stop by the link in the lobby on your way out to say hi and learn more about how you can get connected. While you're here with us today, we encourage you to grab your smartphone, go online and type in rockpoint.io. Here you can follow along with the sermon, take notes, keep track of upcoming events, join a group or a serving team, or sign up for Rock U. Whether you're new to Rock Point or have been coming here for years, Rock U is the best place to find out about who we are and how you can get plugged in. Visit rockpoint.io and click on the Rock U tab to learn more and to get signed up.
Promotion Weekend is happening on May 19th and 20th. This is when all of our kids and youth will move into the ministry that houses the grade they'll be in this fall. Let me give you an example. Say you have a child who's going into 6th grade this fall. Since our 5th graders go to preteen and our 6th graders go to middle school, starting May 19th, your child will be attending middle school. It's that easy. If you have questions about how this affects your children or you'd like more information, check out rockpoint.io and click on the What's Happening tab.
Getting baptized is such an important step in your walk with Christ. It's a public profession of your faith and a time for the entire Rock Point family to celebrate with you. Our next baptism celebration is happening on May 19th and 20th at each of our 5 services. If you've put your faith in Jesus and want to take this next step, we'd love to be a part of it. Head over to rockpoint.io and tap on the What's Happening tab for more information and to get signed up. Make sure to register by May 18th. Our mission here at Rockpoint is to point people to Jesus by loving people like Jesus. Thank you for being a part of this by living intentionally and through the faithful giving of your tithes and offering. While we don't collect the offering in service, we do have boxes near all the exits, both in the worship center and the lobby. We also have online giving on rockpoint.io. Let us know if we can help you in any way while you're here with us today. And be sure to connect with us on rockpoint.io and on social media to stay up to date with everything happening here at Rockpoint.
I was out there, and I'm like, that video's not that long. So talk amongst yourself while I catch my breath. No, there we go. How you doing? They're doing pretty well. The rest of you party too hard on Cinco de Mayo? What's going on? Hey, it's great to be here. Great to be here. 11:30 service. Yeah. Hey, you know what's really weird is having roommates that are good friends. I mean, have you had roommates before? You know, but the weird is when you get friends to be your roommates, you think it's going to be the greatest thing ever, but when it doesn't go right, it becomes the most awkward thing ever, doesn't it? It's like, well, wait, we're friends, but now I want to kill you in your sleep, and you're just not sure. I remember back when I was engaged to be married, my father-in-law came to me because, you know, we were looking around at these apartments, and he goes, hey, I have a proposition for you. I got a proposal here. He goes, I have a house that I rent, and I'm willing to let you live in it for free from now till you get married, which is 5 months, and you could save up more money for your honeymoon. Matter of fact, if you want to get a couple buddies and charge them a little bit, maybe give them a great deal so they can save money, but you make a little more money, you can save the money, and then after you're married, I'll rent the house to you guys for the same price that the apartments are renting for. So you'll get a house for apartment rent. He goes, that's a great deal. He goes, there's only one thing I need you to do. And what is that? He goes, you need to clean the house out. And I go, well, how is that such a big deal? He goes, well, I just had to evict the last tenants, and it got to the point where they had to send marshals over there. Like, they waited till the very last legal, and in the whole part, they were in there for months and months and months, not paying for any of their utilities, nothing. And I mean, this thing was hideous. Matter of fact, I thought I got a good deal till I walked in. Then I thought maybe I got swindled by my future father-in-law. There was a turkey carcass in the middle of the kitchen floor that was from like Thanksgiving, and this was like March. It was disgusting. So I spent like a week and a half cleaning this thing out. It took forever. It was nonstop, every day, tons of work. Finally got it put together. And in that process, I had two of my friends that would like to have a place, and then what they were thinking they'd do is they'd save up enough money, and at the end, they'd have some money saved, and maybe they could go be roommates and go get an apartment. So it was like a great deal. And I told them, I'll let you live here for just like $100 a month. That's it. And it was a great deal. No utilities, nothing. So they're excited. They move in and immediately started eating all my food. It seemed like I'm the only one that went to the grocery store, but I'm going to be cool about that. But the other thing that was weird is my father-in-law said, hey, good business practice is get their first month's rent when they come in. So I said, hey, you got your $100. And they immediately had all the reasons why, hey, man, I'm good for it. You got to spot me, dude. I'll have it in a few weeks. I'll get it later. And I was dumb enough to say, okay. So if we go through that first month, no $100. Now I go and I go, guys owe me $200. And they both had their reasonings why, and they couldn't give it to me. They couldn't do that. Think about it. The crazy thing is their excuses. It's so weird to watch somebody be so irresponsible, but talk to you like they're trying so hard to be too adult. They think what they're saying is so profoundly deep. Like, well, I got my tax thing coming. I'll hook you up then. But right now I got to do this and I got that. And they have all their reasons. So finally the third month came and I'm just about done. They owe me $300 now. So I walk into my one roommate's room and he's playing his guitar. but it's not the guitar he had the day before. It is a brand new, really expensive guitar. It's probably a year's worth of what I've asked him to pay me for rent that he just couldn't pay me. And I go, hey, Neil, you got a new guitar? He goes, oh, yeah, man, this thing is awesome. When I lead words, and he's starting to describe how awesome it is, and I watched his face as his brain caught up with his mouth, and he realized he just told the guy he owes $300 to that he just spent a lot of money without giving his friend and landlord the money that we agreed to. And he looks at me, he's like, yeah, but I had to do it. This was a business expense. It was a had, and he goes through all of the reasons why it had it. So you don't know $300, huh? And he goes, no. And I go, and I just walked out. I was so mad. As I walk out, my other roommate shows up, and he's got like 17 bags of clothes from the mall. And he had told me he'd get me once he gets his tax refund. And I knew he had got it, and he had cashed it. And he came with all these clothes. And he goes in, I go, what, you buy another clothes? Yeah, I did. And I go, so you got your tax refund? Yes. I go, so you have my $300? He goes, no, I don't have it. I'm like, well, why did you go shopping? And he got so serious. He thought this was responsible. He goes, well, Bill, I mean, I got to be an adult here. And I knew that I got this job, so I had to get some clothes. Of all the clothes he bought, there was one pair of khakis and a polo shirt. That was it. And everything else was, and he goes, and before I even agreed to move in with you, I had already budgeted what I was going to do with the tax refund, and clothes was number one. And so I had clothes, then this, and then you. And the problem is this thing and the clothes, they ended up costing more than I thought. So I ran out of money, so I can't pay you. And that's totally responsible of me. You were third on my list of my budget. I'm like, shelter is number 3 on your budget. And I'm like, okay, well then I got a new budget plan. Get another roommate. And I go, you're out of here. And he didn't believe me. He's like, whatever, and he had to leave, and he left. So after he left, I took all of his stuff and put it on the front lawn with a note. I wasn't kidding. Probably shouldn't have turned the sprinklers on, but no, I'm just kidding. But I left this note there for him and to see, and then I turned around, I go, all right, I took care of that. Now I'm gonna go take care of Guitar Hero in there. And so I start walking in, ready to go have this conversation with him. I walk in, and right there on the counter, magically and mysteriously, $300 had appeared. And he found $300. I mean, he must have went through the couch cushions, because it was like some 20, some dollar bills, some quarters, some nickels, even some pennies, and a little bit of belly button lint, It's like, but he found $300 all of a sudden and paid me. And what's funny is he only did it out of fear and guilt. The other guy would never do it. And both of them, one of the number one excuses they gave me when I was trying to get him is like, hey, we know you're not having to pay your dad, your father-in-law. So why should we have to pay you? You don't need our money. Why should I have to give it to you? They thought that was a good excuse. And the reason I tell you this story is just to let you know what a hard life I've had, because I've had terrible friends. No, the reason is I often think about that story, and I think, I wonder how often God feels like I did in that situation. And how often we look like they did when it comes to listening to God with what he asks us to do. And especially when it comes to money. When it comes to money. Man, I cleaned the house. I had the house. I took care of the groceries. I let them eat my food. All I wanted was this little bit. And they acted like that was too much to expect. They had all their sob stories, all their reasons why they didn't have to do that. And then their final thing was to blame it on me. Like, why would you ask this of me when you don't need it? And I think that we do the same thing when it comes to what we do with our money. That God says, hey, here's what I want you to do. This is going to lead to the best way to live. This is going to be the best for you. And we start adulting in a very immature way, and we have all of our reasons why we don't have to listen to God on this. And then when that doesn't work, we end up getting frustrated. And then when we get told we should do this, we get angry like they did. And so like I'm talking about, today we're in this series on more. And we've been looking at this story of Solomon, who spent a whole chunk of his life trying to find out what would bring real satisfaction to our lives. And he chased after everything under the sun. And when he says that, it means everything in this world that you can try to fill your life with to find satisfaction. And basically, he went away from what his father David had told him. Fear God, worship God first, and then go after things. But he decided, I'm gonna go find out what would really fulfill that longing that we all have for more. We all have this longing for more in our heart. The problem is the more is not more of this stuff of this world. Matter of fact, the more and more we run after this stuff, the less and less we get out of it. What he built into us, it says in chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes, was a longing for eternity, meaning a longing for him, a longing to have a relationship with the creator who made us, and to put our lives into stuff that transcends and goes beyond this space-time continuum we're in right now. And he goes, if you run after all these other things, you're never gonna get there. And it's what's interesting is we've been looking at this list. He wrote this, he did this almost 3,000 years ago. And it's the exact same things we all still try to fill our lives with to find significance in what we run after. And they're not bad things. They are gifts from God, kind of. He keeps saying, enjoy the gift God gave you. Enjoy the gift God gave you. Pleasure, having fun, feeling good. That's a gift from God, but it's not God. And then he says, then we looked at work. Work is a gift from God, but it's not God. And then last week we looked at politics and activism and trying to change our world that way. And God says, hey, government is a gift from me and we should be involved in it, but that's not God. And then now we're gonna look back at money. And he says, money is a gift I've given you to use, but it's not God. In other words, to kind of summarize every week of where we've gone is, what we're seeing is every time we replace God with something else, that's idolatry. And what we're gonna see today, especially with money, is this. When we chase after the gifts, not the gift giver, that is the heart of idolatry. When we want the gifts, not the gift giver. That's what idolatry is. Now, if you think, well, idolatry, isn't that like carving some statue and worshiping it? Yeah, it could be that, but it's really, what do you place in God's job description? What do you place and say, this is where I get satisfaction, this is where I get security, this is where I get stability, this is where I'm going to be content? And what we do, we can be Christian idolaters. You could even be a churchgoer, and you're saying, I come to church, but here's the problem. I worship the gift, but I use God. I worship, what I really want is this. But I use my spirituality to try to get God to give me what I want. If you're not a believer, you just say, God's useless. I want these things. But we could turn into these church-going idolaters, meaning I'm gonna use God to get what I want. God's the resource, he's not the source. So we come, we pray real hard, we act really spiritual, and I go, now God's gonna give me what I really wanted. And it's either money or this relationship or that. And we really think that's what I need, and what we really need is God. That's the heart of this whole series. And today he talks about money. And I got to tell you something before I jump in here and tell you right now is I love this church. Best church I've ever been a part of. I think Rock Point is an awesome church. If you're new here, you found a great church. But there's challenges for every group of believers because we live in a broken world. And the problem with churches out here in these suburbs and these wealthier parts of the world is there is a number one thing that I think is the number one idol that even Christians can do all the churchy things, but they can make this their idol. And I believe it's the number one problem in the suburbs. And as much as I love this church, it is the number one problem sitting in this room right now. And that is, there are tons of us in this room that your wallet is your God. You refuse to trust God with your money. And some of you are getting angry right now. I can see it, especially some of you men. Ladies, you get angry, you smile, it scares me. But that's scarier. Yeah, you're gonna die for this. But guys, we're just like, I see some of you guys are like, you pulled out your shields already. You got the spear up. Hold the line, hold the line. And you think, here it comes, this guy's gonna yell about money. And some of you are frustrated right now. I haven't even said anything yet. You're already getting frustrated in your heart, and you're starting to get angry in your heart. And here's gonna make you a little bit more frustrated. In about 10 minutes, I'm gonna tell you why. And I'm gonna be right, because it's right out of Scripture. And then you're gonna have to decide, am I gonna choose to be dumb and stay angry? Or will I maybe listen to what God is saying? Maybe I'll listen to what God, let me prove this to you. We're in Ecclesiastes chapter 5. And in it, the first part of this chapter, Solomon, who knew a lot about wealth and what money can and can't do, he starts off kind of jumping off top. He's not talking about here's another thing that we waste our lives going after. He starts off by talking about how we approach God. How do we come in and worship? How do we choose to worship God? And it seems like it's disconnected, but it's actually setting up. He takes this break in the middle of all, this was a waste, this was a waste. And you know what? You gotta understand, part of the problem is we approach God wrong. And we think this is what worship is, and then we make these mistakes. And he talks, so the first 7 verses, he basically talks about making vows and coming in and talking a lot, but not really listening. And basically, he's describing going through religious ritual. Like I get up, I go to church, I try to be a good person, I try to do this, and you make your faith separate from your life. And it really, when it comes down to it, yeah, I believe in God, and I'm saying these words, I sing the songs, I come, but when it really comes down to it, when the tough thing happens, when God says, trust me on this, and it's clear, I'm not really gonna do that. I'm more talk, not much walk. And my faith is just this emotional experience that really is not tied into a real relationship. That's really what the first 7 verses is about. And to land how important this is, I just want to read verse 1 and 7, and you'll get the gist of how important this topic is. He starts off in verse 1, if you think I'm a throat puncher, listen to this. As you enter the house of God, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. He's like, shut your mouth and listen up. It is evil to make mindless offerings to God. Man, what he's trying to say there is like, hey, you know, when we come to worship God, when we come to relate with God, and don't do this enough. When we hear God say something rough, it's like my roommates. We want to talk about all the reasons why we can't listen to God. We have all this talk. God, I love you, I love you, I love you, but I love you. And he's like, shut up and listen. That's what he's saying. Shut up and listen. We should move our mouth less and open our ears more. And some of you are saying, well, there's only one person in this room moving his mouth right now. Well, that's my job. I'm teaching. But I do that too. I like to more than, and it's important. Now, you don't have to have your mouth moving to be doing what he's saying. Every time I have to approach something that's really, I think is a serious roadblock to our growth, it's hard. Some of you, you're talking so much in your head right now. You're trying to drown out what I'm saying. You're trying to drown out what God has to say. Right now, what's going on in your mouth is, in your head is, in your heart, every excuse why, if he tells me I got to change how I spend my money or I got to give, you have every reason going off in your head and heart right now, how you're the exception or it's my fault. I'm an idiot. I'm just not expecting something right. That's what's happening right now in many of your hearts. He's saying that's the problem. You can get mad at me, but God called me to be a shepherd. Shepherds lead, feed, and protect. And if I know there's a wolf amongst us that is destroying our ability to relate to God and truly experience what he has for us, it is my job to chase it away. And many of you are trapped by the wolf of the lie of money, and you've made it your idol. And the only way out of it is to worship God and use it properly. That's the only way. So you can get mad at me, or to use the words of Solomon, not me, you can shut up and listen to what God has to say. I am trying to help you, okay? Trust me. If I wanted to be mad, I could get a lot louder and a lot more angry. I'm not. I want us to find the freedom of what God wants. So he says that, and then it gets worse. He says down in verse 7, talk is cheap, like daydreams and other useless activities. He's like, we talk a lot, and then we don't actually do. And you know what he says? Fear God instead. See, his point was we're not fearing God because we're not truly worshiping God. We want to use God to get what we want. What we're really afraid of is not having enough. When it comes to money or any of these things we're talking about, when we don't listen to God is we're afraid of something else more than we are of God. We're afraid that if I do what God says, I'm not going to have enough of this. If I give, I won't have enough for me. If I serve, I won't have enough time for me. If I do this, there's not enough time for me. That's a fear. And he says we should be more afraid of God than that because God can take care of us. And part of that thing for fear, there's no way to put it. A lot of churches, like they just don't want to give you the truth about who God is. They want to be Mr. Rogers. Will you, won't you, ain't you gonna? Come on, be our neighbor. God loves you. Jesus died for you. God did everything for us. He built this whole world. He created us. He is the most amazing, loving, incredible creator there ever was on the face of the planet. But he's also the creator of the universe, and he is holy and righteous and judge and creator, and he knows you better than you know you. He knows how you were built. He knows more than you do, and sometimes when he shows up, you should be afraid. He's not talking about a fake fear. Every time in the Bible an angel shows up, it's just an angel with God's glory. People fall over like they're dead. If God showed up in here right now, you'd be like, oh, his glory would almost melt us like on Raiders of the Lost Ark. God is not to be played games with. That's what it means to fear God. But the reason you should fear him is he loves you. He's the guy you want on your side. He's that player that scares the snot out of you, and you're glad he got on your team. But sometimes we play games. That's what the first 7 verses is talking about. We play the church game as if God's too stupid and doesn't know. And he doesn't really understand your scenario. And that's why you can ignore him when he says, I want you to do this with your money. And what's so funny is, what he asked us to do is like what I asked my roommates to do. I'm not asking for everything. I just want you to commit what I asked you to commit first. And when we do it right, the thing we really want with money, to enjoy, have peace, have these things, when you do it God's way, you actually do get that. You're not going to get it the other way around. Show you why. Down in verse 10 is where he starts talking about it. In verse 10, in these 2 verses I'm going to read, he talks about 4 lies. There's 4 things that he says that we think wealth will do. We think our money will do. And every one of them is what makes money an idol. If I fall for these lies, if I go, that's what I do, then I'm worshiping the money, not God. I've turned it into an idol in my life. And so the first one is, he says in verse 10, those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. The first thing he's saying is, money will not bring satisfaction. It can't bring our satisfaction. If you think the money you have from the job you earn is going to ultimately make you have a satisfied life, because it won't. Because if you put money above God, you love money, that's what he's saying. Bible says you can't both serve God and money at the same time. He's saying if money becomes the thing you really serve, because you think that's going to give you satisfaction, he goes, you're going to be caught in this treadmill of you always need and want more. It doesn't mean you won't have moments of satisfaction. That's where we fall for life. Some of you are like, well, I'm doing pretty well now, and I feel pretty satisfied. Yeah, for how long? Think through your life, especially if you've gone down the road a little ways. There was times when you were more broke, right? And then you got a little of something, and you felt this is the greatest thing ever. The house I described, that above an apartment, I thought Shangri-La. If I had to go live in that house again now, I would think God hates me. It was satisfying in that moment. But if I stay on that track, then I'm gonna want this, and I'm gonna want this, and here's what happens to your satisfaction. The more you go this way, eventually you need more, and every time you go more, you not only don't have the satisfaction of not having more, you now have more fear of what you might go back to. Every step you get, now I have more to lose, but I still want to gain more. And here's what's dumb. We all have this incredible amount of amnesia. We play the game over and over and over again. Every time you get to a certain point that you think, I got enough, you think you're done, and then you're not. And you can't remember the last 10 times you did that, the last 20 times you did that. And some of you in this room right now, ears are shut, mouth and your heart's open. No, you don't get it. I'm where I wanted to be. I finally got there. Good luck. Talk to you in a year. Something's going to happen. And that's what he's saying. If you love the money, if you think money is where you get satisfaction, you will always be on a track. It'll slowly creep in like a frog in a kettle, boiling slowly, and it'll slowly get you. You will have to get more and more and more, and it won't get you where you want to go. The second thing, verse 11, the second lie that tells you might just be making money your idol is, the more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. Oh, that's the truth, ain't it? So what good is wealth except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers? What he's really trying to say there is the more money you have, it doesn't solve problems. We believe that more money will solve my problems. He's saying it might solve one issue you had there, but it creates even more than it solves. He says money doesn't solve problems. Having more doesn't solve all of your problems. It actually ends up creating problems in and of themselves. And then verse 12, he says people who work hard sleep well, whether they eat a little or much. That means if you have a lot of money or you don't, but if you worked hard, you slept pretty good. But the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. And that's talking about peace of mind. So he goes, his first lie is we think money's gonna bring satisfaction. It won't. We think that money will solve our problems. It won't. We think money will bring a peace of mind. And we fall for this. It's the same thing. We're falling for it. Every one of us right now, I guarantee everyone in this room, I even do this all the time. It's a battle. I think, you know what? Once I get this paid off, or once I get that raise, or once we get this, or once I can finally buy that other car, or once I can get this kid in college, or once I can, do that, or once every one of us, you have that next thing. That right now you're thinking, I will be so much more peace of mind once I get that. It's eerie how I just got in your kitchen, isn't it? Because that's what we do. And guess what? That next thing will give you peace of mind until the next thing. You will never have enough money to just say, I have no more issues. I have my mind is at ease. You'll have moments of ease, but then it'll come back. That's what he's saying. Because money does not bring satisfaction. It doesn't solve every problem. It doesn't bring peace of mind. And then the final thing in verse 13, he says, there's another serious problem I have seen under the sun. Hoarding riches harms the saver. He's not talking about just stockpiling a bank account. He's talking about hoarding stuff for yourself, spending your money on you all the time. It hurts you is what he's saying. He says money is put into risky investments that turn sour because you think you need more. I need more, I need more. So you start pushing more to get more. And he goes, you can put it into bad things and you can lose everything. And in the end, there's nothing left to pass on to one's children. Now, that's just an example. Here's the problem he's saying it is. We all come to the end of our lives as naked and empty as on the day we were born. We can't take our riches with us. And this, too, is a very serious problem. People leave this world no better off than when they came. All their hard work is for nothing, like working for the wind. What he's saying is in the end, it doesn't matter how much you get, how much you think it's going to satisfy, solve your problems, bring the security, bring all that, but at the end you think it's going to give you security, but it's not. That's the last lie, is you think that having more money will ultimately bring you security, but in the end you die. And you being the wealthiest person on the planet and the poorest person on the planet, if you put them both together when they're dead, they're the same, dead. And that's it. And you did all of that to get nowhere. And here's the thing. Think of this list of everything he just said there. We try to make money bring satisfaction, solve every problem, bring peace of mind, and bring security. If you know anything about the Bible, whose job description is that in the Bible? God's. This is why God asks us to do something with his money. It's why he asks us to give. It's why he asks us to think of him first and do these things first. You know why? Because if I choose to do it his way, I'm battling against this false God. I'm saying, I'm going to trust and fear God. I'm going to trust you for those things. That's not what gives me those things. You can't say you trust God and ignore him with your money at the same time. That's why the Bible says you can't serve God and money at the same time. Because one of them is going to be God. One of them is a gift, one of them is the gift giver. And we reverse that sometimes. We want to worship the gift and then use the gift giver. And that leads to frustration. If you're caught in that lie, you're on this thing and it's not working. And then you hear a guy like me get up and preach again. Hey, here's what God says to do with your money. And I'm going to challenge you to give. I'm going to challenge you to put it in the right order and do what God asks you to do. And you're starting to get a little bit fearful. Like some of your blood pressure is going up because you know what your finances are like. And you're like, if I do that, I'm going to have less. I'm going to have less. And you know, if you're worried about having less, guess which lies you're buying? You're on the more philosophy, on more of this will give me more of life, and you're afraid if I do it the other way around, I'll have less. You've bought into the lie. And when you buy into the lie, guess what it says you'll do? Right here. When we buy into this lie, it says in verse 17, throughout their lives, anyone who follows this way, doesn't matter how many times you go to church, throughout their lives, they live under a cloud, frustrated, discouraged, and angry. Remember when I tell you exactly why you're frustrated, discouraged, and angry? Hello, there it is. That's why. You're buying into this lie. So when you hear someone say, don't do it this way, do this, You can't do this and keep the lie. If you try to do what God says and keep the lie, you're like my roommate Neil. I don't really believe in this. I think this is terrible, but I've been so guilted and shamed and fearful. Here's the money. And that's not going to get you any joy. You're just doing it out of fear. What you understand is you are under a cloud. You have been lied to. You're buying the lie, and I am your friend. I am not your foe. I am trying to help you. So shut up and listen, as Solomon said, and find the real joy. Stop making the excuses in your heart, is what it's saying. Because anything like that, when I ignore God on this, money is my idol. And you know what's crazy about this? You could be someone that gives the most in this room and it's still your idol. I'll show you what I mean. How do I correct this? How do I, like I said, how do I learn how to worship God and use the gifts, not the other way around? Because if I do that, verse 20, if you go down, he says, if I learn to live and accept my lot in life and trust God for what I'm doing, he says in verse 20, God keeps such people so busy enjoying life that they take no time to brood over the past. One of the biggest things I see when people are really hurt and talking about they won't trust God on money, you have something happen in your, like, I grew up poor, I did this, you don't happen, I gave a lot to a church and they misused it. You're so caught up in your past that when you just learn to trust God, he says he'll bring joy. You will enjoy it. Truly. But you got to get away from the lie. You got to get away from the lie. So in where am I at? Matthew chapter 6. Jesus actually says, here's what we need to do. In verse 19, he says, don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them, where thieves break in and steal your treasure in heaven, where moss and store your treasures in heaven, where moss and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. So it's a pretty simple little line. He said, here's what we need to do. What you're supposed to do with what I gave you is you need to not spend it, you need to invest it. We all know the difference between spending and investing, right? When I spend it, it's gone. When I invest, it usually builds up and grows and can come back and help me in the end. He's saying, listen, a lot of us, what we want to do, the lie says to experience more, to really have satisfaction in life. I need more and more and more. I need to spend more on the things of this world. But he says those things don't last. They get destroyed. They get eaten up. They get stolen. He goes, but if I spend my money or invest my money in the kingdom of God, the things he wants me to invest it in, those things are of eternal value and it'll grow and it cannot ever be destroyed. It'll outlast this life. And what he's really saying is it's three things, that giving is actually a gift. It's a gift. The first thing that giving is a gift is it allows us to have a front row seat on God changing eternity. Like me with my roommates, God doesn't need that money he asks us to give. But we get to be a part of what he's doing when we give. And that is a treasure that we get to keep for all of eternity. We get to be a part of it. Everything I spend on myself, you might get to enjoy it, but it doesn't last. The second thing that's clear about giving is I'll show you in a minute how we get this messed up, is when we give, that is the only weapon God has given us against the lie. Even secular studies have proven, how do you get out of overspending? How do you get out of this materialism? How do you get out of being a spendaholic? How do you get out of these things? They said there's only one thing that's proven over and over again to be effective, is they teach people to give more. There's something about how it centers you, it wakes you up, it opens your mind, you get to see it better, and you start to realize that giving is actually better than receiving. And it makes you budget better. And then the last thing, which is sad because it's the reason we usually believe the lie and won't listen to what I'm saying right now, is you're afraid to give because you think I won't have enough, so then I won't enjoy, I'll just suffer. The last thing is when we learn to do it God's way, you actually do have joy. And he wants you to enjoy it. Even the things you do spend on yourself, part of that is part of the bonus. He doesn't ask for everything. Let me show you what I mean. Here's you can spend your life, spend your money, or you can invest it. I have two wheels. Look at this one. This first one, this is the world's way of doing it. This is the spend your money. This is the one we all fall for because it's 24/7. This is what everything on this planet teaches us to do. TV, everything, our own hearts, this is what we want to do. And yet we try to go, I'm going to be a Christian, but I'm still going to live this way with my money. And what it is, it's easy to do because it goes clockwise. And we naturally read a clock, we naturally go clockwise, right? So what we think about money is we think I need to acquire it first. We acquire it. And the next thing, the reason I want to acquire money is I really want to enjoy it. I want to have a nice house, nice place, nice things. I want my kids to have nice things. So we think the ultimate goal, the first step is I need to enjoy. Well, the problem if I make that first, then what I'll do is we tend to enjoy too much. Matter of fact, Bill Earl said it this way. When your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall. And that's really the position most of us are in. Because when you start to enjoy, you're like, well, I need more to enjoy, but I'm not acquiring enough to enjoy at the level I am. So I have these little plastic things or these bank notes or these things. And what I do is I start to build up more debt. So instead of just repay, meaning I'm paying my house payment and maybe a car payment, and my kids went to the dentist, but for the most part, I start buying more and more stuff, or I buy a bigger house, or every time I get a little bit of a raise, I buy more of something. And so what happens is the repay starts to grow. Then what we get to is we'll save, and then we give. Give's always after save. Give becomes the leftovers. And then when we realize that's probably not working that well, we decide to plan. But by the time we planned, guess what happened? It's already a little bit late. This model, would you put enjoy first and acquire? You know what happens? Which one starts to take over the whole wheel? Repay. And all of a sudden you get, that's what he's saying. Some of the most in-depth people I know are some of the most highest income people I know. You leverage it, they call it. And you just go, and so then what happens is when repay grows, guess what has to go? You don't want enjoy to go because that's your number one reason you're doing this. So what happens is give goes first. Plan's out the window. I don't even want to look at the plan. Some of you, I don't even want to look at my finances. But you don't want to plan, but then give goes first. Save will go second because save helps you in the event of acquire shrinks and you want enjoy and repay to still be able to happen. So save then goes away. Repay grows. Enjoy, the whole thing becomes acquire, enjoy, repay. But the problem is repay gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then what happens if acquire starts to shrink? What happens if your income goes backwards? What happens like what happened in 2008? People just start losing houses and turning stuff in. And then what happens is, so finally, you know what you finally lose out on? Enjoy. That shrinks. And then some of us in this room, your entire financial wheel could be described as this: acquire and repay. That's your life. All you do is work to pay all the bills you have. If you enjoy first and thinking about it as acquire, what he's saying is you're never going to really enjoy it either. God's way is different. It's the other wheel. It's got the same exact things on it. There we go. There's only two differences. Instead of thinking about money as something you acquire that's yours, why don't you think about it as a gift that God gives you that you dedicate? You dedicate your income because it's not yours. It's the first thing you're going to have to get right. Everything you have isn't yours. It's God's, and he gave it to you. We're just stewards of it. So some of the guys in this room that you struggle with, some of you guys and ladies struggle with this idea the most, what makes me laugh and cry is you have a bunch of employees that work for you. What would you do with an employee if he started taking your business account and acting like it was his own money? How long would he work for you? What if he tried to say, well, this is my money. I work hard. I got the money. And he made all the reasons why he doesn't have to listen to you. Wouldn't you just think that is the dumbest thing you've ever heard? The Bible outright says God created you, and everything we have is a gift from him, even the ability to make the money we make. We are a steward, not the owner. So we should dedicate it. And if you're going to be a steward that dedicates it, the other difference is it's the same exact wheel, only we got to go counterintuitive. We got to go against everything the world says and everything our own heart. This is hard to do because we naturally want to go the other way. But we have to choose out of dedicating it to plan. And if I'm going to dedicate to God and make a plan, then my plan is going to be God's way. And God's way is giving is always first. The Bible says you're giving to the Lord, giving to your church. Giving to him is called the first fruits. It needs to come first or it's not faith. If it doesn't come first, then you really do think money's your God and you're just giving from your leftovers. The only way it builds your faith, the only way you know that God took care of you is when you choose to give him what he wants, even if it doesn't look like it's gonna work. That's the only way it works. God can then come in and show you it can work. And that's what I meant. Some of us in this room, you might be giving more than anyone else in this room, and still you are not worshiping God with your money. You are not honoring him. You just happen to be able to acquire so much that you have more leftovers than everybody else in this room. And you give, even if it's a huge amount, but it's your leftovers, that does not honor God. You are still worshiping your money. You're just like, hey, God, here you go. Get yourself something nice. Buy yourself a new pair of shoes. Because you're still trusting your ability to acquire money to take care of you. You're not dedicating it. First fruits means first. And that's what God asks us to do. And so you give, then you save, then you repay, then you enjoy. At first, that seems like you have less enjoy, right? But when I do it this way and I save only needs to get to a certain amount. We don't need to hoard. Saving is like the Bible says, like be like the ant. Save up so in case your ability to get money to dedicate goes down, you can make it through and you can feed yourself. So you want to have a certain amount of time of money saved up, but you don't have to keep hoarding money. So that eventually stops. You know, if I give first and plan and enjoy last, what's going to happen to repay? It's going to pretty much disappear at some point. So as repay shrinks, save stays there, guess what gets to grow? What God says, two things get to grow, enjoy and give. Because he says, I will increase the blessing and not to raise your standard of living, but your standard of giving. But here's what's cool. I can give more and I end up even enjoying more. And that's where God says when Solomon keeps saying, hey, just eat, drink, and be merry, enjoy. What he's trying to say, if you do it right, you're going to be able to actually enjoy the things you do have. He's not a killjoy. He wants to give you the joy. But you're going to get to greater joy this way. It makes sense. It's the only way it works. But it's hard. We don't want to do it. So how do I do that? How do I choose to give? I should give. The biblical plan to have a plan to give, simple, 3 words. I'll give it to you real quick. I already said the first one, priority. It's first fruits. If you are a believer and comes to this church, I'm going to flat out challenge you to plan to give to God and give first and start doing it now. No more talk, no more I'm going to go wait, I'm going to go see, I'm going to just make a plan and do it. And make it the priority. The second thing is make it a percentage. A percentage. God always works with percentages. Especially you work on commission. Well, I don't know. I'll make this much as my. Well, if you pick a percentage, it's pretty easy. And what's say you I'm going to give 10%. What's 10% of 0? You don't have to feel guilty when it's a percentage. If God is giving you, if you're not making any more, you're at 0, you don't have to feel guilty. He asked for you to give a percentage of what you've got. If you got 0, you don't give anything. Now, a lot of people are like, here it comes, you can say 10%. You know, I can be legalistic. You can say this 10%, argue. You know, the money, the 10 was a tenth. It was a number of testing in the Bible, so it's used all the time. But I got to tell you, in the Old Testament, when God challenged us to give and to tithe, as they say, that's where the word tithe comes from, a tenth, that you realize the 10th was the starting point, not the finish line. We think like it's some absurd high number that we're supposed to get to. You know, you can be at a 10th and it could be like, wow, you were really not trusting God anymore. That was a beginning number. The Old Testament Jews, they gave over 30%. The 10th was just what ran the temple. Basically, the 10th was what they gave just to their church. And then they had all this other stuff that went beyond. But you know what? I don't care about that. You know what I want you to do? I want you to start trusting God. So take a percentage, pick one. Like if you're 0, if you have to start somewhere, if you're all messed up from the other wheel, just say, God, I'm going to honor you, but you got to help me. Right now, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going from 0 to 1%. And you know what's going to happen? When you find out you don't die and God takes care, you go like, well, then I'll go to 2. Then I'll go to 3, because that's the third principle, progressive. I don't think you should stop at 10. As God takes care of you, you should keep going. Go to 11. I'll just go to 11. Spinal Tap. There you go. Old movie reference. Nobody? Too busy being mad at me for talking about what to do with your money. Be progressive with it. Man, think about the kingdom work that would happen. Like what he said about how you can store up treasures in heaven, how God would use what we did to change the world. What would happen if just this service, if everyone in this room moved 1% in how they gave? Last week I talked about political activism, and we as Christians like to complain about we're losing our culture. Where's the world going? It's all going to hell. And the reality is, there's some ministry and things we can be doing. And we would have more Christian values in our culture if Christians would actually do what Jesus asked them to do, especially with our money. Especially with our money. You realize we got to build a building soon. We're going to do a campaign because you always have to do that. But if everyone in this church said, you know, I'm going to give and picked a percentage and moved over here, if everyone did that, we wouldn't even have to do the campaign. We could build the building cash. The reason we have to, why does the church always do fundraising? Why do they have to do these things? It's because we're not honoring God. If we just did what he asked us to do, we didn't have to ask for anything else. We would just have what we needed. A lot of these campaigns is because of our lack of faith. So that's why we do it, to challenge us to just go beyond. But what would happen if? And see, and here's the thing. This is especially for you guys, ladies too, but I understand guys because I is one. It's interesting to me. One of the number one things I hear from men that are Christians is they have a hard time with consistently having spiritual passion is the best way to describe it. Like, I have a hard time reading my Bible consistently and praying. I try to be a better husband. I want to serve. And you go in bursts and you go to a man camp and you get excited for a few weeks and then it wanes and you're always coming back to the same story. I just lost that passion. Where's that passion? And you know what's weird is we never put two and two together. Look what he says in verse 21. In verse 21, Jesus says, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. Wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart will be. People read that over and over again, and what you thought you heard was, I'll put my money where my heart is. That's not what it says. Jesus made a very clear principle. He says, wherever you put your money, that's where your heart will go. So guys especially, and the ladies here, but I know a lot of you men out here that struggle with spiritual passion. You want to do all these godly things, but you are too chicken to trust God with your wallet. You just won't do it. And part of it is a misguided notion that I'm the one that's supposed to secure my family. I'm the one that's supposed to take care of them. I'm the one that's supposed to provide. And you want to provide all this junk instead of just showing them how to trust God. And so we don't do it. And then you wonder why the passion doesn't last. Throw your wallet in the ring and see where your heart goes. Throw your wallet in the ring and see what happens. I challenge you. You know what the Bible says in Malachi? It's the only time God ever challenges us in all of Scripture to test him. You know what he asks us to test him on? Giving. See what happens if you just do that. See what will happen. And the beautiful thing is the joy will be there. You'll get what you were actually, the reason you're afraid, if you have the faith, you'll actually get what you're afraid of losing. Because what you're afraid of losing, you don't really have in the first place. It's your choice. Do I want to spend my life, spend my money, or invest it? And I want to give you an example to close this out. By my own stupidity, you need to trust me on this. When I was a kid, we used to trade baseball cards. My neighbor, I took great care of mine, incredible care of mine. And so we'd go out and we'd trade them. Well, one day we're out there, I'm like 6 years old, like 1976. We're out there and we go to trade and I walk over and my friend comes out with his cards, but he has a toy with him. It's this toy right here, actually. I have a picture of it. It's a Star Trek communicator. This is from 1975. There you go. I still have it. See, I took good care of my stuff. And my mom saved this to remind me of my stupidity. Thanks, Mom. But I wanted this. You know why? I had all the Star Trek stuff. I had the phaser, I had this, but my dog chewed up my communicator. So I wanted, you know what this is? This thing they talk to the ship? You know, it's like, Spock, we need help right now. You know, I wanted to be Captain Kirk. You know, and so I wanted the communicator. So I wanted that. I go, hey, instead of just trading cards, what do I have to, I'll trade you a card for that. And my friend goes, okay. Well, I want an all-star. And the way when I was a kid, Our cards we looked at, they'd say All-Star on it, and what we thought the best cards were the All-Stars, and he looked on the back and they had all their massive stats. So he looks through and he goes, I want your Steve Garvey All-Star. No way, you can't have my Steve Garvey All-Star. I'll give you Jim Rice from the Boston Red Sox, because I had 7 of them. So I go, here you go. He goes, all right, I'll take that All-Star, but with Jim Rice, I want another card. I go, no All-Star. He goes, okay. He starts looking at my cards. He goes, here's one. This guy's not an All-Star. And I look at the card, and I'm like, okay, this guy, I've never even heard of this team. This must be a minor league team. I turn it over. I go, this guy's got no stats. He's never even played a season. So I'm like, that's all you want? Yes. Okay. I hand him the cards. He hands me this. I have this. I want to show you a picture of the card I traded. Those of you who went, you understand baseball cards. Let me explain to the rest of you that don't. See, that's Hank Aaron. The year before, he had just broke the all-time home run records of Babe Ruth. I watched it happen. I'm 6. I knew who Hank Aaron was. I didn't know who Henry Aaron was. I knew who the Atlanta Braves were. I didn't know who the Milwaukee Braves were. They didn't exist. They had moved. This was before my time. I had no clue. I thought that was some minor league team. And when you turned it over, he had no stats. You know why? This is a rookie Hank Aaron baseball card. Now, if you know, one recently sold at auction for $357,000. $357,000. But I got this. This is what I got. Spock, I've made a terrible mistake. But I got this. You know why I tell this story every couple of years? Some of you have heard it before, right? Does anyone remember? I told it 2 years ago. You know how much the card was worth then? $290. 4 years before that, $150. 5 years before that, $60. If I wait long enough, I'm going to be telling the story about how I traded $1 million baseball card for this. But listen to me. If you're still angry in your heart, you still don't want to trust me, I really did enjoy this. I love this. I did not miss that baseball card at all. I didn't. And some of you are saying, I don't get what he's saying. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. You're right. You don't miss because you don't know what you don't know. I didn't realize what a dumb deal it was till I found out what I missed out on. And then it's too late. This was really, really enjoyable until I discovered, until I came to the point that I said, I want to actually date a girl someday. Then this was just a piece of plastic. My same thing. What you're doing with your money, you might really be enjoying it right now. But that's a season. This is spending it. That's investing it. What do you want to do? Father God, I just thank you, Lord. Thank you that you do care for us. And Lord, I just pray right now as we go. We spent a lot of time kind of talking about this topic, Lord, because I just feel so much like there are so many people in this room right now that this is the moment. This is the biggest battle for their heart to trust you. So God, I pray that we just listen to you. I simply just pray we'd listen to the wisdom of Solomon that you gave him in the word. I pray that we will shut up and listen and put our faith in you and do something about it. Lord, help us to be people that don't just spend our money. May we be people that invest it. I pray this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.